Welcome to the Caribbean American News Media Show, your premier destination for in-depth coverage, engaging discussions, and entertaining segments showcasing the rich tapestry of Caribbean American culture. Join us as we explore a wide range of topics, from current events and community spotlights to arts, music, cuisine, and more. Our show features exclusive interviews with influencers, artists, community leaders, and everyday heroes who are making a difference in the Caribbean American community. Stay informed and inspired with our thought-provoking segments that highlight the diversity, resilience, and creativity within our community. Tune into the Caribbean American News Media Show for a captivating blend of news, entertainment, and storytelling that celebrates the Caribbean American experience. Get ready to discover new perspectives, celebrate successes, and connect with the heartbeat of the Caribbean American community. Don't miss a moment of the action. Stay tuned to Caribbean American News Media Show for an immersive viewing experience like no other. Hashtag Caribbean American News, hashtag show, hashtag cultural celebration. Welcome to the Caribbean.
All right, a special good night to all our viewers here at Caribbean American News Media Platform. We greet you, yes, my friends, it's another beautiful Tuesday night, and you know, over here on the platform, once we hit the Tuesday weekday, then we are live on the air. So greetings to all our brothers and sisters throughout the region, throughout the world. Thank you so much for being part of the Caribbean American News experience. Those of you who are viewing us via GVD TV, channel 115, St. Lucia, you might be viewing us on the YouTube channel or over there on Facebook. Wherever you're viewing us from, we want to greet you. We want to send out a special greetings to our friend Mr. Soto there in Dennery. To all those of you in Dennery, Sakafet, greetings to you. Wherever you're viewing us from throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia, throughout the length and breadth of Dominica, Grenada, Martinique, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Canada, United States, wherever it is, friends, we greet you. Thank you for being part of the million-plus viewers who come on to this platform every week to be informed. And so thank you so much. Continue to share the live and tag a friend as you join the platform. I have two special guests with me tonight, and I would like you, I will introduce them to you. We have some very serious discussions to have concerning Dominica. We also, later on in the program, after we finish with our brothers from Dominica, we want to look at the State Department trying to dance around some concerns. And I can say to you that I did reach out to Senator Schumer there in Washington, and also Miss Yvette Clarke, the congresswoman from New York. I reached out to their office and a number of individuals, and I want to let you know later on in the program we will have a discussion, and that's why I say to you as citizens of the region, not too fast. There is nothing to celebrate about. You are being misled, you're being played with, and I have the evidence and the proof to share with you. So tag a friend, share the live as much as you can as we get ready to take off on this another beautiful Tuesday evening. How was your day, folks? How was your day? Everything tout bagay bien? Yes. Tout bagay bien. We're going to take a break and then we'll be right back.
At the SLP's Conference of Delegates in Vieux-Fort, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre made a desperate attempt to rewrite history.
You will remember that the United Workers' Party only gave COVID support to NIC contributors.
This claim is absolutely false. The truth? In July 2020, under the UWP administration, 5,000 St. Lucians who were non-contributors of NIC received $500 per month for 3 months to help them survive the pandemic. Prime Minister Pierre knows the facts, yet he chose to lie to the nation. Why? To mislead and divide. St. Lucia deserves a leader who values integrity, one who speaks the truth, not one who tries to twist it. Pierre, pardon. We need real leadership, not deception.
All right, and we are back. Yes, we are back, and I want to again greet everyone. For those of you who would like to get onto the YouTube channel, and you are on any other channel, but you want to have the YouTube experience, it is Caribbean American News Network. Over there, it is Caribbean American News Network on YouTube, and on Facebook, it is Caribbean American News Media. All right, we started with network, and then we had an issue a couple of years ago, and so we maintain the network on YouTube, and we changed to Caribbean American News Media on our Facebook page. We are registered here in the United States as a media platform, as Caribbean American News Media. All right. So thank you so much for being with us. Remember, we have a number of issues that we're going to discuss tonight. And while I am here, let me just give you these information, and then I will bring on our guest. We heard sometime today, we got news sometime today coming out of Trinidad and Tobago that there is an election date that was issued for that country. So Trinidad and Tobago, they will be heading to the polls based on a media release on the 18th of March. That is today, 2025. And that is from the newly installed Prime Minister Young. So the next general elections there in Trinidad and Tobago will be on the 28th of April 2025. So Trinidad and Tobago will go to the polls on the 28th of April 2025. So we got that one out of the way. Again, we will we also got some news out of Grenada. Let's go over to Grenada quickly, and then we will be focusing on Dominica. All right. So we know the former Prime Minister, Keith Mitchell, had a medical emergency sometime yesterday and was taken to hospital. Let's go over to Grenada just for a minute.
Great staff and the way you treat them. Sisters and brothers, I'm blacking out.
And so we were not able to confirm how he is doing. We will have word for you sometime tomorrow as to the well-being of Dr. Keith Mitchell there in the Spice Isle, Grenada. And now we go back to our sister isle, Dominica. Now Dominica have had its many challenges throughout the years, and they have been led by Prime Minister Skerritt, who some would say has been a disaster for that country when it comes to CIP and other matters in Dominica. And so tonight we have two Dominicans with us on the platform. I want to introduce my two brothers, I would say, fighting the same cause for justice in the country. And so some years ago I reached out to the opposition at the time in Dominica, providing assistance to them, but I did not hear back from them, and so they went into this, what people would say, elections that they were not really prepared for, based on recommendations for electoral reform in that country, and you would believe that any good prime minister would want to ensure that the democracy of his country is strong and that the people can exercise their franchise in a democratic way in the country. But we're going to have our brothers. I'm going to just bring them in. Our guest tonight is Mr. Lord. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah. I'm turning it upside down. I don't understand why.
Oh, you're upside down?
Yeah.
Man, we got to fix that. Okay. No, man, you're not upside down. You're just right.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Mr. Lloyd. So he is a social activist in Dominica, and we want to welcome him to the experience here on Caribbean American News Platform. I'm so happy to be able to surrender the time to our brothers over there. He is a social activist. And also we have Mr. Durand from Dominica, also a social activist and a freelance journalist like myself. We'll be switching between our visual. We are using a new technique here tonight for this live. So I encourage you to share the live and tag a friend. So I am going to go to Mr. Durand first. Greetings to you. Welcome to the platform. And could you introduce yourself to the audience? And I want them to get accustomed to you because we will see a lot more of you on this platform.
All right. Are you hearing me properly, Mr. Garfield?
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear.
All right. Okay, good. Let me just take this opportunity to thank you first for giving us, that is ZNI / the Dominican people, the opportunity to be on your platform tonight, a very much view platform in the name of Caribbean News Media. We appreciate the time, and so we always look forward to having, Dominica's issues ventilated on such platforms. Let me say as well, a pleasant good evening to all your viewers, listeners, especially the Dominicans, both in Dominica and out of Dominica, listening and watching this program tonight. So again, we appreciate the time we'll be spending here with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Durand. And we also have Lloyd. Could you introduce yourself? He is a social activist. And like I said, I want you, our people, to get to know our brothers here from the land of many rivers.
Yeah, I'm Zed Lloyd. I actually live in New York City. I'm just involved in my country because I care about it, and looking forward to going home to join the struggle, and because I think we need some serious changes at home. And so I have been involved from the diaspora in an active sense. I think it's important, and our brothers at home need some foreign assistance and help and upliftment of spirit. So that's what I'm about.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to switch over to Mr. Durand. But what is happening in Dominica? Can you give us an idea? I've been hearing a lot. I've been reading a lot about some of the latest. I heard the Prime Minister, Mr. Skerritt, inviting the RSS, alerting his minister to get the RSS ready, standby to move into Dominica. And I know it's not the first time we're hearing of the RSS entering Dominica.
All right. Well, let me just start by saying that I heard you mention about Dr. Keith Mitchell last night in terms of that mishap that he had, in terms of me following up with my friends from Grenada. He's not doing too bad, and thank God for that. Sorry. Yeah. We wish you all the best indeed. To your question also, Brother Garfield, let me just be very straight up with you and tell you that from since the year 2000, the Dominica Labour Party has been in government, headed first and foremost by deceased Prime Minister, Mr. Rosie Douglas, then taken over by Mr. Pierre Charles. And within a short space of time, these two formidable men, they passed. Some persons in Dominica still have their antennas up, as it were, as to the reasons why these brothers passed. But at the end of the day, that is an investigation still out to happen. Fast forward, we had Roosevelt Skerritt. He took over the reins of power in Dominica in 2004. And by that time, then he was the youngest prime minister in the Caribbean region. In Dominica as well, you had this sort of jubilation as to Dominicans, rejoicing and were very happy as having the youngest prime minister in the region, and also can boast and say they had the youngest prime minister who ever got into office in Dominica at a mere age of 31. From 2004, he was sort of a real hope indeed, especially for the younger folks. And so a lot of interest was generated around him. Persons really liked what they saw. And, it was a sort of, real rejoicing aspect from 2004. 2005, it was the first election that he contested. His party, obviously, through sympathy and whatever it is for two former prime ministers' death, he basically walked into the prime minister's chair. From then, we saw signs of things that, we are witnessing today that was not right in terms of his leadership style, his very arrogant style, his very nature in dealing with the citizenry of Dominica. And so 2009 was another electoral cycle whereby we saw things creeping in terms of his campaigning style, being that sort of, presidential type campaigning that this brother sort of introduced to Dominican politics. 2014, again, we went into another electoral cycle where things were just sort of getting progressively worse as it relates to the things that we saw coming out of the leadership style of Roosevelt Skerritt. And so along those years, we, the Dominican public, we kept talking, we kept advising, we kept admonishing, but it seems as if all our talk went on deaf ears, as it were, and things are where it is today, whereby in 2019, on the eve of another general election, as you alluded to earlier, he basically made a request for the RSS, the Regional Security Services, to come into the country. Real danger for the need for RSS to come through. But the other leaders in the region, a matter of fact, at least one Caribbean leader is on the record as basically saying that, he thinks that, things were much and stretching it into yesterday when he had a press conference, and all geared at where we in Dominica, we have been clamoring, and we are still at it, for free, fair, and transparent general elections in Dominica. As we speak, Brother Garfield, we don't have an ID card to vote. We don't, the list in Dominica, the electors list, it is very, very bloated. A matter of fact, that list supersedes our population in Dominica. As per campaign finance, we don't have that. There's no regulation as it relates to the monies that is being pumped into the elections in Dominica. And you well know this saying in the political language and political circles, he who has the deepest pocket will walk away with the election. And so, for example, in 2019, we heard on the record that was not disputed by the Dominican Labour Party, which Roosevelt Skerritt headed then and still heads today, in the tune of 70 million EC dollars was spent by the Dominica Labour Party on that election.
So wait.
That was
You
not-
said
that was not
$17
refuted.
million was spent on the last election.
Not 1770.
70.
Very well. $70 million. That was the money that was being touted about as it relates to the spending, the lavish spending that in 2019 that the Labour Party unleashed on the Dominican people. And basically, I am saying what I saw, stole the election in a sort of highway fashion.
Wow. So I know going into the after the 2004 general elections there in Dominica, you guys had some recommendations for electoral reform in that country. What went wrong? I heard there was a study, the recommendations were there, and all the government had to do was to get the ball rolling before any other general election was called in that country.
Yeah, because a matter of fact, for the record, we in Dominica have been clamoring for that process to be cleaned up, to be much more free, to be much more transparent, to be much more open. And so we well know, we tell our children be fair, be honest, and if we as big people cannot put what we are telling our children into practice, especially as it pertains to a process that's supposed to put men and women in a position to basically affect your life in one way, shape, or the other, then it really doesn't even worth what we're telling our children. And so we have been clamoring for that process to be freer and fairer. But there have been hurdles, there have been hindrances along the way as it relates to that. Finally, when we thought things were sort of coming together with his word after the 2022, there was a sham general election, a snap election in Dominica. He basically told the Dominican people that we would have some kind of reformation of the process. He went as far as single-handedly with his ministers and whoever it is, his government colleagues. He gave the former CCJ boss, that is Honorable Dennis Byron, a project to come to Dominica and make recommendations as to how we can clean up the process in moving forward, in the tune of pretty close to $1 million that was paid to Sir Dennis Byron. And we're talking about $700 and something thousand there. Mr. Dennis Byron, to be fair to him, although there was some delay, he came up with the recommendation. And as part of those recommendations, he also suggested to the Dominican people that we should have the list, the very bloated list, cleaned up in a manner to reflect the true reality on the ground. He recommended a card system so that any one of us who shows up to the polls can be properly identified. He talked about, other situations to make that process freer and fairer.
So let me ask you, not to interrupt you, but how do you vote in? How do you vote in Dominica? Do you not use an ID card?
Mr. Garfield, let me repeat. We don't have any system by which we can identify ourselves in terms of the formalities. It is just taken on the high ground that everybody know each other, and so Loftus Duran should know John, Loftus Duran should know Jane, and take it for granted that the polling officers will do a good job in terms of memory or connections or knowing people in the community, and so they go by that. But there's nothing from a professional/legal level to enforce what the question you asked me in terms of proper identification. No.
Wow. This, you just You just give me a blow under my gut there. This sounds really bad. But let's go over to Lloyd. Let's bring Lloyd on, and then I'll come back to you, sir. I believe, yes, let's get Lloyd back. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm there.
You there? Okay, I'm going to bring you on now. All right. So, what is going on? What is going on?
Well, I'm here really because there's an injustice. There's an injustice. There's a political injustice and economic injustice. You see, electoral reform is supposed to be a process of liberation from the people, from political control by politicians. And fundamentally, it should be a system that is controlled by the people through an electoral commission that is free of governmental control. And what is happening in my country, and it's necessary to be free of government control because, remember, brother, politically, as colonized people, our whole process was handed to us by the British. And that process is handed on the premise that the politicians are given all the control on behalf of the people. And what we've had across the globe, from the continent, the motherland, in the Caribbean, and all these places, is we've seen a failure of that process. Because so much power has been placed in the hands of these politicians, they become tyrants instead of leaders. And so Dominica at this juncture is almost at tyrant status because of that process that places so much power in the hands of the prime minister over the citizens. And so what you have happening in Dominica is our electoral process has become hijacked by the prime minister, not even by the opposition and the leadership, by the prime minister. And the electoral commission has been taken totally out of the picture. So the institution that is empowered by the constitution to take care of electoral matters in the country has basically been voided from the process by the prime minister, Roosevelt Skerry. And so that has got me angry, and I feel the need and the reason to get involved, because you see, the only way we can ensure that we can end this idea of politicians being excessive in spending, excessive in control, being tyrants, is for us to create an electoral process that brings the power back into the hands of the citizens, so that we can have control over the politicians and reverse that mistake in that British tradition that was handed down to us. And you cannot have that happen if your electoral process is controlled by the government.
So it sounds like you're asking for a reset in Dominica. It seems like, you guys need to come together as a people and take control of your country. Dominica, you can't. It seems like a lot of people have surrendered to the finance, the monies that is being thrown at them, and so it sounds like they have sell out their democracy to these leaders, and that's what we see throughout the region. We is fighting to maintain democracy in St. Lucia, freedom of speech, freedom of expression in that country, and now we're hearing under the Labour Party in Dominica that there is something there that the citizens are really concerned about, and I am concerned that you're saying to me in 2025, you guys can just walk into a polling station, tell somebody your name, and just cast your ballot and leave. There is no ID card, no way of identifying who is voting in that country.
Yeah, that's basically where we are. The system has no checks and balances, And what they're proposing under the prime minister's idea of electoral reform, and you talked earlier about the judge and his Byron and his presentation, and it was a pretty good place to start. What he presented, he said it wasn't the optimal, but it was a good place to start.
But what was the problem? Why he did not start?
Well, when he handed it was against what the prime minister has in mind. Byron, for instance, recommended campaign finance reform. And the Labour Party has a problem with campaign finance reform because it is for illicit funding that it keeps winning elections.
Do you have a strong opposition in Dominica?
Well, again, the electoral process is skewed. So if you're getting stolen at the parliamentary process, you can't have an effective opposition. Before this, brother, right? Our electoral process is to be, we have 21 constituencies. We would come 13-8, 12-9, 11-10, 14. A sense of balance was maintained in the country. You understand?
Right.
Because of the stealing of elections and all of this of no ID and people can vote, people can come from foreign, bought on planes and to vote. The whole thing got lopsided. We're now at 18-3, 19-2, something of that. I mean, it's crazy. You cannot function as a democracy with a lopsided electoral result. And it's not because the people are saying they're 18-3. It's because the system is robbing the value of the people by bringing in imported voters to change the results in certain constituencies. And so we are saying we need a complete, we need a reset of the electoral process. We need to have residency requirements so that you cannot just come from foreign and vote. You have to be in the country for a certain amount of time, meet the residency requirements, and be allowed to vote. You have to have a proper ID, biometric data, fingerprints and the like. So you can't vote in one constituency and then go vote somewhere else. We're talking about having an electoral commission that's not just with political appointees by the government and so forth, but having civil society in the electoral commission. It's like places like Jamaica has done, places like Barbados has done, where if you have civil society within the electoral commission, the citizens now have more power in the electoral commission than the government, than the political parties. And it is only through that process you can really arrive at a balanced sense of electoral reform. But Roosevelt Skerrit doesn't want to do that. And he doesn't want to do that. And what he does, in our frustration, we've been building and building for about 15 years, so we are tired. And he realizes the people are ready to explode. And every time we get to the point of dealing with that issue, we are faced by the process of the RSS. They always call to create trauma on my people and have them being afraid. And so they're afraid to come out into the streets and protest for their justice. And we're tired of this. And that's why we came to your platform and other regional platforms this week. We want to talk to the people of the region to let them know that their governments are making decisions through the regional security system that is affecting our democracy. It's affecting our democracy. The RSS cannot come into our country like some renegade military force and sort of mute our people's ability to stand up for democratic rights.
Well, they're coming in based on a request from your prime minister.
So prime minister.
Your prime minister, he's bringing in external forces to, it sounds like, to stifle your constitutional rights in that country to petition your government or to stand up against any government that has gone out of control. So let's go over to Dominica before I go back over to Mr. Durant. Let me just go over to a press conference by Prime Minister Skerrit, I believe sometime this week.
And everybody will know every matter before the courts will be dealt with on its own merits and demerits, and its own evidence and arguments and so forth. So I don't think necessarily, yes, campaign financing will be required. So to answer your question about the issue of campaign financing, right. And the business community, the DHTA and the DIC can't remain silent, and the Employers Federation, the crowd, the rioters. Has happened. The point is, we'll have to go based on past experiences.
Okay, we're just trying to get the beginning of his statement.
To work out the differences and to come to a mutually beneficial understanding. But while you're discussing and while you're trying to work out a workable solution between yourselves, be mindful of us. The rest of us were not part of the president.
So we're going to take it from here.
Relations. There were no decision taken by President Trump which negatively impacted Dominica during this 4 years, and I don't see any reason why they should be in this 4 years.
Sure.
Another question. We heard from the Chinese embassy on Friday, where the ambassador was really concerned about what he felt could be a trade war between China, of course, and the United States. Prime Minister, any views on what, as he said, what could possibly be a serious trade war between the two countries?
Okay, that's not what we want, but just bear with us. We're getting there, folks.
That the small humans like us don't get crushed, so to speak. Yeah, yes, Mark, please. I mean, it's okay. I mean, yeah, sitting is okay.
Planned protest action on, I say Dominicans, the opposition, if you want to refer that way. They have a planned protest action coming Wednesday. And we've heard comments from you this morning indicating that you've advised your security minister to bring in the RSS. That's one question, if necessary. Okay. Would there be a need for that, Prime Minister?
Yeah, well, the point is, well, you know, we'll have to go based on past experiences. In 2016, we were in Parliament to pass legislation then of electoral reform, and because some people tend to forget this, we had legislation, and when one looks at the legislation, it is almost identical. What when I hear people talk about Sir Dennis Byron report, what Sir Dennis Byron submitted and what was there before Parliament 2016, there are not many dissimilarities, you know. And we know what happened. And obviously, the opposition elements are seeking to mobilize people for demonstration with the intention, as they say, to prevent the bills from being passed. Now, how are you going to prevent the bills from being passed if you don't?
So let me come back. It's fair that I cut the feed so that I can hear from you. He's saying that you, in 2016, and let me see if our brother wants to come in at this time, and then I'll come back to you. All right? Yes, let me hear from Brother Durant here. You heard the Prime Minister. He said in 2016, he tried to pass the same bill, electoral reform bill, and the opposition protested and tried to block it, and so he's bringing in the RSS this time again because of past experiences. Did you hear me?
Yes. There's a slight delay, but I think I caught the gist of your question.
Mm-hmm.
To be exact, it was in May of 2015 that Roosevelt Skerritt is referring to.
Yeah.
And what really and truly, as the record will show, what was set to go down there was to making some things that are illegal in Dominica legal. In the names of treating, meaning to give people perks so that you can coerce them into voting for you or voting against the opposition, and also bribery. These two situations in Dominica, they are legal. You can be fined, you can be jailed. And Roosevelt Skerritt in 2015, May thereof, had the balls, he had the audacity to go to our parliament and basically do away with these two aspects of the two tenets that sort of holding us as a people together, in that our elections are not being bought line, hook, and sinker. So that is really and truly the facts of the matter. And so obviously, Brother Garfield, the people of Dominica, I was a part of it. We stood and we said in no uncertain terms that those two things that he wanted to legalize, they will not. And so they had no choice based on the based on the vociferousness of the crowd outside, the loudness of the crowd outside. We chanted in one voice, we will not have it. And so they had no choice but to shelf the bills and say to Dominicans back then, they will come back with it in some amended form and whatever it is. But lo and behold, up to today, we're in 2025 now. That is what, 10 years ago. We have not seen the light of those bills coming back. And so it is because of the people's pressure back then that overhauled the intentions of the government. That is why today in Dominica, bribery and treating is not legal. And just to come back to a point that was made earlier that I want to reemphasize.
Yes.
The RSS as a body, Mr. Garfield, there's supposed to be some sort of vetting, some sort of verification as to when these prime ministers, when these leaders of the region get a request from a fellow member, there has to be a vetting process. It cannot be you get a request and you just decide based on that request without verification, sending troops. No. And so it's on that premise we are very glad to be on your platform tonight to talk directly to the leaders in the region.
And before you go on, I think one of the opposition leader here, well, the opposition leader in St. Lucia did issue a statement asking the RSS, asking the regional governments to assess what's happening in Dominica before sending anybody into that country. He is warning them that he is concerned about the constitutional rights of Dominicans to protest, to petition the government being trampled on by the RSS. And so he's advising the regional governments to kind of back off, stay out of this a bit, and let's see what is happening here. Because, I mean, you can't just send in troops there to manhandle citizens of that country because they're protesting. They're using one of the tools that was given to them in the constitution of the country.
And yes, Mr. Garfield, we are not opposed to the RSS, their mission and their purpose as it pertains to maintenance of law and order to us as a region. We are not opposed to that.
Right.
What we are saying is that this force cannot and should not be militarized against a people.
Yeah.
Because we well remember, sir, in 2019, on the eve of an election, the RSS came to Dominica under this false pretense by Roosevelt and basically desecrated an entire community on the western coast of Dominica in the area of Salisbury. People got shot, babies, elderlies, the sick, just name it. The entire community was bombarded with tear gas from around 4 a.m. in the morning till about 9. 5 hours plus of tear gas in an entire community on the request of Roosevelt Skerrit, just because he saw or he realized that if things were to pan out, then the elections may not have gone in his favor. And so we are saying we should not let that happen again. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow, Wednesday the 19th, when we the people come out to stand in defense of our country, Roosevelt has told us again through that press conference you just played. He has already indicated, put his security minister, that is Mr. Reuben Blackmore, on alert, just in case things, get out of hand or whatever he says, to call in the RSS. Based on Roosevelt Skerrit's track record, I am not believing that statement, in that maybe that request has already been made. We cannot trust our Prime Minister in Dominica, but I don't trust him. And so when he gives you that sort of opening, you have to go deeper to see what is there. And I will not be surprised if tomorrow morning or Thursday or whatever it is, we see in real time members of the RSS on our shores in Dominica. I will not be surprised. You can only know a fruit. You can only know a man by his characteristics. You can only know a fruit by eating. You can only know something by testing it out. And so Roosevelt's carrot, times without number, has been tested and proven not to be an effective leader in Dominica. On the contrary, he is anti-democratic in nature. And so with things like this, where people, ordinary citizens, come to stand up for our rights, he is always ready to use this sort of high hand, this sort of, Gestapo type policing with brutal force on the people. And we are saying the time has come for that to stop. And the only way we are saying it can stop is when we stand in Dominica and let the information go out to people like you and others who are on the platform tonight. Because this situation in Dominica has become an unbearable burden at this time.
So you Dominicans are going out to protest tomorrow morning in the streets of Roseau, and you're protesting what? He's going back to the House to pass this the election reform bill. Is that what will happen tomorrow? But let me ask you, has there been consultation between the opposition, the people of Dominica, on this matter?
Well, Brother Garfield, in Dominica, I must say, is a very peculiar little country in the region. Things that happen in this regional space, and it is the norm, it does not, I repeat, it does not happen in Dominica. And so when, for example, people in St. Lucia say they consult, the government in Grenada say they consult, there may be some form of consultation. In Dominica, the word consultation takes on a different meaning, a different tone. And so by just suggesting or saying to somebody or the opposition or whoever it is, that is the kind of consultation that we know about in Dominica. And so, yes, there was this sort of meetings around the country. But the meetings around the country were where people were coerced. They were basically, it is alleged that some of the people were paid to come and clap. Some of the people were given scripts to come and support what will be before Parliament this week. And so we are saying the process has been so skewed towards one party. That is why tomorrow or Thursday or whenever it is during this parliamentary sitting, the second and third reading, after the third reading, it becomes law. So basically everything is cast in stone. We are saying that we cannot as a people have those things turn into law and we will say we did not know, or we go in our little pity party mode and try to fix it. Now is the time. Tomorrow is another attempt at trying to get our election situation in Dominica like the rest of the region. Like in Antigua gone through that process twice. They are thinking of going at it on a third time. Jamaica is a model in the Caribbean where elections is concerned. You have Barbados. You don't hear this hiccup in Barbados when Bajans have the elections.
No.
St. Lucia, well, I'm hearing something creeping in there, but they still have a good handle in St. Lucia.
Yeah, and the people are watching the electoral department there.
Exactly. You have Grenada, and in every Caribbean country except St. Vincent, you have this sort of democratic process happening ever so often, and leaders have been changed. You can feel, you can sense the process is working. But when you watch Dominica and St. Vincent to a small extent, where Ralph is on his 30th year, Roosevelt is on his 25th year. The country itself, these countries have basically nothing to show for these long drawn out sort of marathon types of leadership. And any leader that stays in power too long dictatorial tendencies tend to creep in.
And
so
that
like
is a
my
fact.
brother who normally says in Kenya, PLO Lumumba, he says, every person must know when it's time to leave the stage.
Well, let me ask you, before I go over to Lloyd, in this bill that you are protesting, what is not in the bill that you think should be part of this bill?
Lofty,
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me just take a shot at that, Zed, and then you can comment based on, if I forget something. What is not in there, Brother Garfield? What is not in there is the very critical aspect as it pertains to the regulation of the monies, the largesse that flows through our election. So there's absolutely, presently going to Parliament, no aspect of campaign financing. None. None.
And any modern
recommended that.
And any modern electoral bill, I would believe that would be one of the main part of the bill. Exactly. Campaign financing.
Exactly. And so on his little limb, that is Roosevelt's carried, he said yesterday and continues to say that this campaign financing aspect, it is too elaborate, it is too expensive, it is too this, it is too that, and they're looking at it at a CARICOM level instead. That cannot be.
No.
It cannot continue to be. And we are saying in Dominica, time has come, the time has passed then for us to fix that in our country.
So people are saying you need campaign finance.
We need that. We need that ASAP like yesterday before we go into any general election. And another point here, it's the very old archaic situation of he and his government wants to push on the backs of the people a confirmation process of the already bloated list. We are asking for a complete re-registration of that list. Re-registration and confirmation, they are two different words. They indicate two different set of things to happen. A confirmation process, as per the government's deal, is saying they want to take this same old list, Brother Garfield, the one that is 72,000 plus, past our population already. And they want to leave everybody on there and go through it, and people who don't show up, they will be removed. That is madness. If you start in fresh, you start fresh. So we are saying is remove everybody from that bloated list as it is. And let's start clean. So everybody who lives in Dominica, you want to exercise a franchise to vote, you come to register or re-register because you were there already. Those of you who live in foreign lands and you want to participate in your electoral process,
come home.
Welcome that. So you make your way back home, come to re-register, so that we, the Dominican public, can be confident. We can be much more satisfied that whenever a process like that is held again, we will have a much more sanitized list.
That's right.
So that we can go through the process.
And the dead will stay off the list.
The campaign financing. My brother, we have dead people who come on the day. They come out from the burial grounds, they cast their vote, and they go back to rest. That is in as much. Yes, that is in as much as I can tell you. That's how blatant it is in the country, where ghost voters, they come, they do their thing under other people's name because that list is so bloated.
But you have a bigger problem too. You have the CIP, the thousands of CIP foreign nationals who have your passports. You have problems that you have never seen, brother. You don't even understand what you're talking about, boy, man.
We are in very murky political waters, and we are saying that have to fix.
Okay. All right. My brother, we left you out for a while.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, brother, I want to go to the fundamentals. You see, the basis of the problem and why there will never be a solution is that the prime minister, and you hear him talking about we give, the prime minister does not have constitutional authority to be controlling the electoral reform process. That is the first thing and primary thing. The reason why you have changes in Antigua, the reason why you have changes in Jamaica, the reason why you have changes in St. Kitts is because an electoral reform body took control of electoral reform. In Dominica, unlike anywhere else in the region, the prime minister has taken over the electoral reform process, and that's fundamentally wrong. And so as long as that occurs, you're going to have a stressful situation between citizenry and government on the issue of electoral reform. It has to be something controlled by the people and the Electoral Reform Commission. That is where the problem rests. The prime minister is deciding what he wants to give the people in electoral reform, when it should really be the people who are deciding this is our electoral reform and this is what we want passed. So the process is back to front. You understand? And so these ministers in the region, instead of sending the RSS to Roosevelt Skerry to deal with our contentious reaction to his illicit mannerism on electoral reform, they should be telling Roosevelt Skerry, listen, brother, this is not how electoral reform is run. You have no part to play in that process. It's a conflict of interest for the government to be involved in deciding what goes into that electoral reform bill. The government has to present its options, opposition present its options, civic entity present their options, and this electoral commission does the consultation process, and we arrive at a complete picture that is beneficial to the entire society, not the government. So the problem is inherently flawed, and there'll always be contention between citizen and court as long as the process is flawed. So what we're saying is this RSS entity was created for dealing with chaos in the region. They're totally valid. I have no problem with their existence. But you cannot be bringing the RSS into a nation that is not in a chaotic situation. You see, to bring them there before chaos is a means of control. It's trauma, it's mind, it's psychological. And what it is muting our ability to resist and stand and protest and say, listen, we want this to be over with. And if our protest is one that has to be consistent and agitated to ensure that we remove this prime minister, or he gets the message that we are no longer going to stand for his nonsense, we should not have some material, militaristic institution, over our heads in our own country.
But the question is, are the people willing to stand up?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Part of that muting is that RSS thing. Part of that muting is the police who tear gas our people. There is nobody standing up for the people. The government is supposed to be our buffer, and they're against us. You understand? So we are saying, given the situation in the country, we have to look outside. We have to send a message to the region. We have to talk to St. Lucians, talk to Kittitians, talk to Antiguans, to tell their leaders that what they are doing to us is unjust. And if they don't listen, we have to go further afield. We might have to make a Washingtonian, movement. We might have to call for the European Union. We have to get institutions that are more powerful than the government, that can work through sanctions and all types of possibilities, that can get to set the record straight in Dominica. That electoral reform is a process that must be controlled by the citizenry and not by the political process. So that is where our problem is.
Wow. Let me ask you while we're on that. I know that you guys are going to be protesting tomorrow. What support are you looking at tomorrow? Are you expecting a majority of Dominicans to come out? A matter of fact, we're getting a call right now. Let's take this call, all right? We have a call coming in. Let's take the call. Caribbean American News Media Platform, calling you on the air.
Yes, good evening to you. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
I am listening. I'm listening to a very lively discussion there about events in Dominica.
Yeah.
I am particularly concerned that listening to the two gentlemen that you have on there, they are saying that they're going to have a protest in Dominica, and the government is against them expressing their rights.
Mm-hmm.
our constitution makes provision for people to express themselves, and they can protest. The constitution also makes provision for people when they expressing themselves, they do not really hinder the rights of others. And that is why in Dominica, like all other islands in the Caribbean, we have a Public Order Act that says that if you're going to have a demonstration, then you must apply to the chief of police to get permission to carry out that demonstration. And the reason being is so that the matter can be regulated so that other persons won't be interfered with during the time that they are doing their protest. This group have not requested a permission from the chief of police. I'm saying if you want to really express yourself, you want to demonstrate, the Constitution is all for it. All the Constitution and the laws in Dominica is saying that there's a way that you can do it that does not affect and interfere.
Caller, before you go further, let me ask you a question. Are you concerned about the electoral process in your country?
Yes, I'm concerned about it because what happened is our laws have been around for many years, over 45 years now.
45 years.
It has never, yes, it has never been amended as such. The only time it has been amended is sometimes ago when the opposition was in power and when they were trying to gerrymander the boundary and the matter was taken.
So let me ask you, hold a minute. Let me ask you, take your time with me here. All right? I am outside watching your business on the inside. So after 45 years, are you comfortable? This is what I'm asking you. Are you comfortable right now with having an outdated system in your country? Are you not greatly concerned about that?
Well, that's why tomorrow the government is going to Parliament to make amendments and bring in a new set of electoral legislation. The problem is, what is it that those who are opposed to it find that it is not helping and improving the system? We never had ID cards, and honestly, I heard the discussion before. We don't need ID card as well, but just try to
hold your horse. Hold. I have a problem with what you just said there, because it sounds to me like you like the 45-year-old system, because all over the world, hold a minute, all over the world, people are trying to secure that democracy that was given to them, the right to vote. They're trying to protect it, to strengthen it. But you're saying that you don't see the need for an ID card. How do you identify people? So your dead grandmother can come and vote. Somebody can vote on her behalf.
No, I think you need to understand the situation in Dominica. I'm saying to you, sir, that we are going to modernize it to have ID cards. So that is.
What about a finance reform?
He's gone silent.
Unmute. Don't mute. Unmute and let's talk. Anyway, you can talk to him. Unmute. You're muted, sir.
You see.
Hold a minute. My guest want to speak to you. Go ahead, sir. Lloyd.
Brother Mills. Here's the issue, right?
Oh, you know who it is.
Yes.
Dominica's a small country. Everybody know one another.
I want to go to Dominica one of these days.
We know exactly who's calling. That is a Labour Party sycophant.
Love, give me a minute.
Go ahead.
You see kind of
argument. For some reason, I'm not getting right to well.
Okay, hold a minute.
Yo, my brother, you said your piece, man.
You can hear now?
Yes, I can hear now, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. This is 2025, right? 2025. And hear the kind of argument that an acolyte of the government comes and makes on television. 2025. You understand? The issue in Dominica, my brother, is not electoral reform is not the problem, you know. The problem is the prime minister. The prime minister is putting himself in a position to decide what we should have as electoral reform. That is what these guys don't want to talk about. That is not the providence of the prime minister. That is where the problem is, you know. If electoral reform were controlled by the commission, we would have zero stress in the country. Zero stress. There would be no demonstration tomorrow on the streets of Roseau. The problem exists because a dictatorial leader is trying to decide what is electoral reform for the country, and you cannot do that because the Constitution does not empower you to do that. That is the problem, you know, my brother. It's not the electoral reform that's the problem, you know. The prime minister doesn't want to get out of power because he has done illicit things in his time, and he knows if he loses an election in Dominica, he's in trouble. He's in trouble. And so he's stressing the country with rules that protect him. And it's not even about the government, it's about him. That's why we're having a problem. And so when this brother comes and talks this nonsense, 2025, people know each other in Dominica, and you're bringing in plane loads of people from foreign that people haven't seen in how many years. How are we going to know each other? This is madness. We cannot continue with this, and we're not going to continue with this. What our concern is now, the people are ready to not continue with this, you know. It's that RSS police force, military institution that worries us. Like that, why is that getting involved in our internal dynamics democratically? And that's why we want to talk to the people in the region. These governments need to straighten it out. Gonzalez, Brown, and the whole nine. Mia and all. She goes internationally, she addresses democratic institutions, and she does these beautiful presentations in foreign. But in the region, she's a joke. Regionally, she's a joke. She does not stand up for democracy regionally. You understand? And we have to start calling her out.
Let's bring in Durant now. Durant, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Garfield, let me just be crystal clear with you as to the caliber and type of caller that you have on the line as we speak.
Talk to me.
His name is Mr. Cleville Mills, a former police officer in Dominica, who everybody will tell you based on his actions or inactions in certain cases, he is a sycophant of the Dominica Labour Party. Okay? He, being a police officer then, as a public servant, it equates to basically our laws in Dominica where that regulates the public service says anybody who is part of the public service should not be seen or heard openly campaigning for any political party in the country. And here it is. This caller that you have on the line, I need you to ask him, he may not answer me, whether he was a host or a usual contributor to certain radio programs pushing Labour Party propaganda. That is the caliber of man you have on the line tonight, basically trying to spin something into orbit that he can no longer spin. And that is the sort of roadblocks, that is the sort of situations that we face in the country as it pertains to the Dominicans now standing up in defense of country.
So, officer,
is as the likes of
So, officer, you heard
an order.
You heard Mr. Durant. Were you while serving as a police officer engaged in political campaigning?
I have been engaged in public speaking for the longest while.
No, not public speaking. What? I didn't ask you if you were preaching a sermon for a church, you know. I'm asking you, were you involved in, because there are laws, Mr. Durant is saying, that would prohibit you from getting yourself involved in any campaigning?
No, it is not campaigning. It's not campaigning.
What you were doing? You were preaching?
No, I was not preaching. I have been expressing my views on issues for ever so long. And because it is a guarantee in the Constitution. You know, we have to be cases in the Privy Council, where public officers would challenge on that matter.
Mr. Garfield,
and that matter went to the
with
Privy
all due
Council.
respect to you, sir,
I
I really don't want you to run your show.
And this matter, but the point is, it seems like Loftus is changing the subject. I am not a police officer now. Loftus himself is an advocate.
He's a distraction
operative of the opposition.
And
So,
really,
to have a discussion and
ask him to get up.
Hold caller. He wants to say something to you. Go ahead, Mr. Durant.
I am just saying to you, so with all due respect to you, you are the host, so I respect that as your position. But I am just telling you straight off, like in Dominica, this engagement that this caller is in with us now, he was sent to do that.
Okay.
He was sent to do that. So normally in Dominica, we normally cuts him off.
Oh, okay.
Once we can identify, we cuts him off. So
oh, that's what you. Okay.
Feel night to night with you because you don't know. You don't know the caliber of political animal you're dealing with.
Yeah, I really don't. Yeah, that's true.
Cleville Mills, please give us the time on the program tonight.
You're just because on what he's saying.
Okay, so
Mr. Podorido.
Go ahead, but I will want to give my guests some more time with the agenda that they came with, but you go ahead.
Yeah. But it is unfortunate that in a discussion, your guest, in order to address the point that the caller is making, is trying to attack the messenger instead of
well, whoever send you, if it's the government, at least
nobody sent
you.
Nobody sent me.
Okay, but they're my guests, and you can always come another time. But they're my guests, and I appreciate that. But
okay, let me just say one last thing.
One last thing.
I'm just giving you a different perspective from what your guest has been giving.
Well, I really didn't want a different perspective yet, I wanted them to set up their arguments first, because I haven't heard the full story from them as yet. But you are already... I'm reading you. Basically, you don't support them being out there tomorrow.
I don't support them. And they don't support the government.
Okay, good. So because what we consider in St. Lucia, you might be a political hack also, we might not want to have this exchange right now, all right? But I'll save your number.
You don't have two hacks.
No, I can't have... No, listen. Okay, Mr. Hack. By the way, I have a video for Mr. Skerritt that I just found. I'm going to put it on the live, and you might want to look at it and maybe share it with him when we're finished. There might be some question coming out of it. Thank you, caller. Yes, so I see the back and forth, Mr. Durant. I see what his agenda was. But I have a video I want to share with you, if it's okay, from CGTN on Mr. Skerritt. Okay, and then I will allow you to continue, Mr. Durant. The time is yours. I promise you the time, and so I'm going to give it to you.
We stand very strongly in the One China principle, and so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees us as a friend. We see China as a friend, and as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed, and China has been indeed a friend. China is a friend all times, but certainly in difficult times, and we have always been able to rely on China's support. The Chinese don't give us a loan and say to us, you have to do A, B, and C. No. They give us a loan with no conditions, no strings attached. We stand very strongly in the One China principle, and so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees...
Wow. I would love to, honestly, this is major one for me. I would love to get an explanation on that, but I'm going to hand over to you, Mr. Durant. This one I can't believe what I'm hearing there, but you go ahead, sir. Mr. Durant, your turn.
Yeah, well, basically what you heard Roosevelt said in terms of Dominica as a country supporting the One China policy, what the reporter, whoever was interviewing him, was supposed to ask him initially was, how did that relationship started? How did it, was it ratified by the Dominican people? And so if those questions were asked, the reporter and the people on your live feed would have been getting a much different perspective as to the dictatorial tendencies that I spoke of before by this gentleman. We as a people have very little issue with China as a country, China as a superpower, okay? What we are saying in Dominica, where the Chinese are concerned, is that the very disappropriation of the resources that the Chinese pump into the country. We are also seeing a situation whereby the Chinese are basically taking over the commercial hub of the country. If you step into Roseau now, Mr. Garfield, that is our capital, you will notice a number of Chinese stores set up all across the city and on the outskirts, basically pushing out the indigenous businesses. We are seeing this sort of high-handed manner in which the Chinese, they are left to operate in Dominica, where the resources of Dominica is at as we speak. Presently, to top it up, we have an international airport being built by the Chinese. And the very disappropriation in terms of the number of Dominicans that are benefiting or could be benefiting from that project, but the Chinese are basically sucking the cream of the crop of that project. Can you imagine, Mr. Garfield, you having a it is pretty close to $2 billion now based on the works have been going. Can you imagine a $2 billion project in your country and it is not being felt, it is not being filtered through your citizenry for the better? The Chinese came in with their new trucks, duty free they got. The Chinese, they are basically having the upper hand.
Where did you all get the money? Where did you all get the money for that airport?
Well, it is alleged. I don't know. You'll have to ask Mr. Skerritt himself, but it is alleged. That's what he says. It is through the CIB program.
You're talking about CIP?
Well, we call it the CBI. You guys call
CBI.
it the CIP.
So which means that the Chinese would be involved in your CBI program.
Exactly. We have a number of them.
They're just contractors. In that relationship, left to your mind?
Yeah, go ahead. No problem.
My brother, here's the issue. And again, it comes the same issue as the electoral reform issue. Here we are as a people, right? And it goes across the Caribbean, all of them, it's a club. The people are not involved even in decisions of who they follow in international relationships. We are being made Chinese supporters without even asking us. We are being made supporters of Russia without even asking us. We are being made supporters of a Maduro election in Venezuela that is unconstitutional and fraudulent. And we as a Dominican people are signatory to supporting Maduro. We are not involved in anything internationally. We are run by dictators. They make decisions that affect us as citizens, and we have no say in the process. This relationship with the Chinese, it is one-sided. It is a relationship of aid, not a relationship of trade. You have a population, one of the biggest populations in the world, maybe only outnumbered by who? The Indians right now. And we have all practically zero trade with the Chinese. How can you be telling me that you are going to develop us? We are not going to be developed. We are going to be controlled by an external entity because you're in an aid relationship. The aid has nothing to do with development of industries, nothing to be in development of indigenous processes that are going to make us economically more valuable so that we can stop borrowing. All it is structural and that kind of process that always has us begging the Chinese. That is not to our benefit.
Let me ask you,
are
you concerned based on the climate that we're in now with the United States, Donald Trump trying to secure his borders and trying to stamp out the influence of Chinese in the region? And we know that's what America is going to do. They will do their best to squeeze the influence of China from the region. And you guys are basically in bed. You guys are basically, being taken over in some of your communities, businesses, by the same Chinese that the Americans are trying to stamp out the influence in the region with. Are you guys not concerned that your country can be heading down a very dangerous path when it comes to international relations? Hold a minute. Let me just play for those who just come in this clip again.
We stand very strongly in the One China principle. And so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees us as a friend. We see China as a friend. And as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And China has been indeed a friend. China is a friend all times, but certainly in difficult times. And we have always been able to rely on China's support. The Chinese don't give us a loan and say to us, you have to do A, B, and C. No. They give us a loan with no conditions, no strings attached. We stand very strongly in the One China principle. And so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees us as a friend. We see China as a friend. And as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And China has been indeed a friend. China is a friend all times, but certainly in difficult times. And we have always been able to rely on China's support. The Chinese don't give us a loan and say to us, you have to do A, B, and C. No. They give us a loan with no conditions, no strings attached.
Wow. Go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
You understand the relationship, if even it's across the region, if these regional leaders had developed a more impactful relationship with the Chinese instead of just a borrowing of money relationship, by the time America speaks, the region would have been industrially developed and economically independent and be able to even tell Trump, get lost. You understand? So we have a relationship with an international power, but the relationships that we are utilizing are not based on empowering us or making us better economically.
But hold a minute, I just got some breaking news on this video I played here. I just got some breaking news from a very close intel in Washington, indicating that this video is being played in the U.S. Congress. Do you understand what that means for your country?
Exactly. We get it. We get it. And we get it. Because like I tell you, the way things are going down there, bro, we might have to think of a Washington mission. You remember the Morris Bishop era with Eugenia Charles? You remember that?
Mm-hmm. I was too young.
You remember our former Prime Minister Mary Eugenia Charles?
Mary Eugenia Charles, yes. Good woman.
Yeah, when she made that mission to Washington to save after Morris Bishop was murdered, in Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we might have to make a Washingtonian mission. The way things are going in our country, we might have not for militarization, but we might need the power of the U.S. to support us as a people.
I have a call from St. Lucia coming in. Very important program tonight, and I want to promise both of you brothers that I'm going to give you guys this platform as often as you can so that we can continue to highlight some of these issues that I'm hearing. Calling you on the air, Caribbean American News Media Platform. This is a call from St. Lucia.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, Honorable Sir, how are you?
Honorable Sir, too, back to you. I know a long time.
Yes, we have a major problem here. I don't know if you saw the video that I played, and we have our Dominican brothers here with us standing up for the democracy of their country.
Democracy now, that's the chant. Okay? What impressed me about these two gentlemen is what Caribbean leaders are doing with our islands, the weak minds of them.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese, we know, has the worst human
right.
atrocities in the whole world is China against their people, some of their people. And and we don't want to go back at the time of Mao Zedong, Ling Biao, and Chu Enlai, and all of them. That one that's there, he's the one that's exploiting the world of black people. What he's doing to Dominica, and I hope these gentlemen are listening. What he's doing to Dominica is what he has done to the Congo, he has done to Kenya, he has done to they have done to Sri Lanka, giving them money on the pretext that they are good-natured nations, and then when they don't pay, they take everything over. The Chinese own Sri Lanka now. They could not pay up. They were devastated in a lot of politics inside the country. Kenya, they helped to the port in Kenya. Kenya did not pay them, and they own they own the whole port in Kenya. They have been trying that, and now in Antigua, Prime Minister Brown have done something to the Caribbean that is the most insulting and devastating to some of our bright leaders, giving them 1,600 acres. They have their own airport. They have their own port. They're building the ports now. They have boutiques. They own superstores. They own, and they're going to be building industrial stuff down to Antigua very soon. They built a prison-like embassy like Fort Knox. Nobody knows what's going on inside there. No Antiguan could even venture near that place, Mr. Garfield and your guests. You understand? And it's sad that Brown has started that all because of Chinese money. He has sold out his people, and that is devastating to Caribbean people all in the Eastern Caribbean. It is sad. And the real insult, especially in Kenya, they are very racial, they're very prejudiced. They have been treating Kenyan people as if they don't belong, they're not human beings. And that's how the Chinese do. We must remember a lot of Caribbean people during the time of Forbes Burnham and Lumumba and all of them, African leaders used to send students to China. They were treated so badly. Some of them had to leave China and come back. Who wants to learn Mandarin in the Caribbean? Who wants to do that? Our young people not interested in Mandarin? But that's the big call, the big chant. Dominica has to make sure that Skerrit doesn't keep on doing that. And you know something, Mr. Gaff, he's a dual citizenship, Wow. He went to Mississippi State. He went to Mississippi State University. That's where I know him. In the NCAA college arena, our school used to play against them. So people showed me and introduced me to him, and I know he could still remember.
Yeah,
he is an American citizen. As a matter of fact, he took the case to the CCJ, and he won the case. Stating that he, with being a United States citizen, he cannot be Prime Minister of Dominica. He won it in the CCJ. So there you go. That's where all these people are together. I'll tell you, I'll show you, name the gang. Didicus Jews, Secretary General of the OECS, Dayton Michel, Rob Gonzalez. I call him Bumpy Brown. I have reasons for calling that, And last of all, she swings left, she swings right. Mia Motley. Her mouth is shut, but she talks all about what Africans must do and what they mustn't do. She has to watch our brothers and sisters that make up the OECS and the CARICOM. And it's sad, these two gentlemen have to fight for their people because Chinese are going to overtake them. And it's all because of the Chinese money that they're selling out and being traitors. Thank you so much, especially to the two gentlemen. I hope your protest goes real good and the people in Dominica can understand. You understand? Be cautious, because I was talking to them and I told them about my good friend that passed away when I was a youngster, Roosevelt Douglas, you know, and also Eugenia Charles. These are leaders of Dominica that they should have in their memoirs. And Roosevelt Douglas have to behave himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So go ahead, Mr.
I'm so glad he touched on the issue of the courts and these things. The RSS is part and parcel of a bigger issue, you know.
Yeah.
We have the bank, the ECCB, we have CARICOM, we have the courts, the CCJ and the one other brother one. And what happens is all these institutions have the same problem. Their appointments are dictated by prime ministers, by governments.
Hold your thoughts. Hold your thoughts. We have a call. Call you on the air. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Florida.
Okay, are you a Dominican?
Yes, I'm a Dominican.
Okay, welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, let me ask you, do you support the brothers going out tomorrow and stand up against this government?
What the brothers are doing is for country. What they're doing is for the youth of tomorrow, for the beautiful island of Dominica. What they are doing is for everything that is good for democracy back home. The caller who called previously, you see, I have said it many times. We, Dominica, have taken a turn on the 21 years of that regime for the worse. And a lot of the young persons only know that kind of politics. And they are using the psychology. And they have the young people and the people settling for less. That's why that caller could call your program and be so untrue on the reality that is taking place on the floor in Dominica. You know, it's time for these people to understand. And it's just a few, like everything else. They have to do that because the economy and the state is so poor under the reign of that administration that is doing everything to protect their personal gain. To protect, again, I repeat, their personal gain. That's why a few like these will talk when they know right. And they're making right look wrong, and they're making wrong look right because they want to stay afloat because of the handouts they are getting. They don't worry about the majority, They only worry about their personal gain. That's why the prime minister can use his psychology and manipulate a nation and make a nation get so poor. A Dominica that was well known in the region. A Dominica that had one of the best healthcare in the region. And we have come to nothing. The private sector have gone to the rock bottom. And to hear this kind of people calling a program where people trying to bring truth to power, where the man wants to take electoral reform and hold it in his back pocket, when there's supposed to be persons and institutions put in place for electoral reform, as the brother said, was trying to bring across on Mr. Lofty. And it's time for these people to stop. It hurt my core. Because these people are doing wrong. And it's time for them to tell Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt, you are doing wrong. The country is poor. Millions and billions of dollars cannot be counted for. No agro-processing, nothing, an island of agriculture. And I will bring it on your program, and thank you for the opportunity. And this guy's talking. Let them tell you about the CBI. There's no right figures, no checks and balances. You understand? And people like this is calling to divert electoral reform where we only asking to clean the voter list.
And that's a reasonable request, of course. That would be a reasonable request.
Yes, and to hear these people like that doing that, and not just them, a few also have to hold on because, it have a thing called title. When you were accustomed to being in the middle class or at least considered to be rich, but because the economy is falling poor, they have to hold on to the illegal activities and the old management of a country. You understand? A lot is going wrong in Dominica. And the region, the leaders of the region know that. And they are not interfering when it comes to the logic and the rights of the people of Dominica, which is part of CARICOM. But when they come, they want to protect one man and his friend because of their political friends. And if the regional officers come to Dominica, they are doing another crime. And the government, the leaders of these other islands are responsible for anything that happened to our people in Dominica. And I want them to know that anything happened to any Dominican is their responsibility like they did in Salisbury. And we should take a legal action against them because they came and they take a community. But we let back because of resources and stuff, because the government have all that money in their pocket. And the money belongs to the people of Dominica, and up to now they cannot do nothing where the young generation can see success and can work and see determination to achievement. We don't have that, sir. We don't.
Thank you so much.
A lot is going on. Thank you, man.
But
God
save
bless
our
you, man,
number.
and I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
the room.
No, anytime. And we have another call coming in, but I really want to hear from my guests. So let's take a few more calls, and then we will. Go ahead now. We'll take the calls later on. But the folks are excited, and they're calling in. They're requesting the number.
You see, that's why I tell you, it's a model. For instance, look at the RSS, right? The government ministers should not be able, they can make a request, but the sending of the RSS should not be their decision collectively because Gonzalez and this one signs. No, there should be a civil body with some military aspects, with some police aspects that assesses a situation, a country, and makes a decision not based on these governmental ministers and their interests to protect each other, but on the interest of the greater good of citizenry. You understand? Okay. Same thing like the banks.
So we have an incoming now.
They're appointing people to these boards.
Caller, you on the air. Sorry about that. Hold your thoughts again. I do apologize. Caller, you on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, good night to you, Dr. and good night to your guest.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Very interesting discussion taking place. And I heard one of your guests speaking to the fact that the institutions, the heads of the institutions, especially institutions like the court, the final court for Dominica and now St. Lucia, being the heads of those courts being instituted or imposed by the politicians and so on. And not really by the people. And that is a real problem. And I would just want to ask of them, why is it the Dominicans never stood up when that decision was being taken to replace the Privy Council or the Judicial Committee with the CCJ, when from all accounts, it would appear that the Constitution provided safeguards where that should not have happened without the people agreeing for it to happen. So if they can, I'd like for them to respond to that.
Any one of you brothers want to respond?
Let me take a knock at that. And let me thank the caller for, asking the question. You see, the caller may not have heard that I said before that in Dominica, the sort of leadership that goes on in Dominica, it doesn't happen nowhere else in the world. And so we have a type of leader in Dominica who always exhibits this dictatorial sort of hand-down, strongman kind of leadership. And so when that situation arose, that the country was about to make that move to the CCJ as being its final court of appeal versus the Privy Council, there was the agitation by a number of people basically saying that at least some sort of consultation, here that word comes up again, some sort of consultation should be had with the people. Some sort of referendum could have taken place. But again, it did not, because Roosevelt's carrot single-handedly was hell-bent in removing us from the CCJ for whatever reason and punching us under the belt or the gun of the CCG. There are allegations. Removing us from the Privy Council, and punching us under the belt of the CCG. There are allegations that swirl around as to the why, but I'm not going into that. I deal with the facts. But what we have seen is as Zed said a while ago, my brother said a while ago, there is this sort of mingling in the system as it relates to justice by the political directorate in Dominica. I heard you played part of the clip earlier that Roosevelt is sort of, pampering around the court is independent, but it's in Dominica you have to witness for yourself the veracity and authenticity of this brother's words.
Yeah, I heard you, sir, but my question is, why is it you did not at least use the court? Because these are issues that should be going to the court. I mean, yes, you can agitate and try to get the people out. But then when that is not happening, your next best bet is to go to the court to try to stop it. So why did you not, or your organization did not look to stop that process by going to the court? And then, eventually it might have gotten to the Privy Council, just as it happened in Jamaica in 2024. In 2004, sorry.
That's a very good point, And I'll tell you what, and you talked about Jamaica, I'm glad. You could have used Barbados too. You see, in a country like Barbados or Jamaica, that would have never happened. Because the intellectual, cadre of the country is active and existent. That has not been so in Dominica. What this Roosevelt carrot era has done is it has destroyed intellectual integrity. It has destroyed the polarization in the country is so real that the people do not really listen to the problem. They talk against each other. There is no listening and no collective augmentation of structure to protect the society. It's dead. You understand? Civic society does not exist. For you to have to call for a referendum, for you to have to call for citizen resistance, you have to have an active civic capacity within the society. And the civic capacity has been destroyed because people have been made so broke and economically dependent that they have no sense of resistance. That is what is going on. That's why we are trying to raise this protest, is to bring back that civic strength to the people, make them stop being afraid of the system, stop being afraid of victimization. It's a mental process that we are now trying to reverse. That is what this guy has accomplished in Dominica. He has destroyed the minds of the resistance within the people. And so what you talk about there is exactly that. It wouldn't happen in Jamaica because civic society is active. It wouldn't happen in Barbados because civic society is empowered. It wouldn't happen in Trinidad because civic society is empowered. Civic society in Dominica is dead. We're trying to bring it back. We're trying to rise it tomorrow. That is what we're trying to do. And that's why we're here. That's why the RSS bothers us, because it is being used as a tool to ensure that we do not return to resistive capacity as a people.
Yeah, and just to strengthen your point,
before I get off, sir, are you aware that there is a challenge to that same change from the Privy Council to the CCJ happening in St. Lucia? And
yes, I know.
Apparently, the Dominica situation was used as precedent to suggest that there was an error in the St. Lucia Constitution that allowed for that shift from the Privy Council to the CCJ head. However, this matter is still before the court. It is just being appealed, and I'm confident that the Court of Appeal will find that what was done was unconstitutional. So I'm hoping that when that happens, Dominica would look at taking some action in respect of what happened in their own country. Because if that does not happen, then they may want to do the same thing in St. Vincent. And then St. Vincent, I'm hoping by then, will take it up to the Privy Council. So I expect a fair judgment to be given in that matter. But I'm looking to see what's happening.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on the caller's question, Mr. Garfield, if you'd permit me.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Apart from what Zed said, which is very, very correct, I want to state on the record as well as a fact, because of that system that we have been under for more than 20 years, some people have basically succumbed. Some people have basically thrown in the towel. And so the caller talked about going to the courts. That is fine. That is an avenue to seek redress. But in Dominica, we have a number of lawyers, a number of legal minds. But it is only a few who, every time they are willing to put up their hand to do work for and on behalf of the people. And that is a fact. And these very few lawyers, they are tired. They are saddled with legal matters for and on behalf of the citizenry by and large in Dominica. So if you don't have this sort of help whereby these lawyers, these legal minds, these scholars in the legal business, they are prepared to champion the cause for the people, then the avenue that the caller spoke of, it is a much tougher road to walk with the people who are quote unquote the legal minds, if they are not forthcoming in terms of their services whether being offered pay or pro bono.
Wow. Lloyd, you want to come back in? And it looked like we might be running out of time. So I'm going to give you all the time now, and then I will want you to come back on another, so we can have a follow-up after your protest tomorrow.
Yeah, because I think we need to talk about that geopolitical dynamic, because it's bigger than Dominica, the region, like we have CARICOM, but the leadership that we have in the region, bro, they are not working collectively in the interest of the citizens of the region. They're working collectively in their own interest. That is why that Roosevelt Skerrit thing works. Gonzalez and these guys supposed to tell Roosevelt Skerrit, yo, what you're doing there is wrong, brethren. It's wrong. You understand? They all have basically the same constitution, which sets up a place for an electoral commission to control electoral reform. It's basic. And this guy is in contravenance of the Constitution. And these guys are sitting out here and signing the document authorizing the RSS to go and protect Roosevelt Skerrit, who is destroying and disrespecting our Constitution. Where is the integrity in these institutions of governance in the region? There's no integrity. You understand? And the people of the region we are here tonight is you we are appealing to. These leaders are out of hand. They're out of control. And we need to start tempering these criminals, man. You know what I mean? Even that China relationship, we could have had a much more productive Chinese relationship. We could have a relationship of trade. Look at China. Look at any of these countries. Trinidad, Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent. Which of them has trade with China? Look at Dominica. We have water. China is a dry place. Why don't we have a water agreement with China? Why don't we? Why aren't we trading with the Chinese with all these billions of people? There's something wrong with that Chinese relationship. It's not in our interest. It's making us debtors. You understand? And so these guys are the reason. The leaders are not shaping relationships that are beneficial to the region. They are the problem, not
and
the Chinese.
also said a very critical point that we must put out there is that there was a memorandum of understanding signed by the government of Dominica for and on behalf of the people of the country. And the people of the country don't know what is in that memorandum of understanding. We don't know. We are at bay. And so we are just going on this sort of, limb, thinking that our country, our leaders will do good by us as it pertains to the Chinese invasion, I call it, into Dominica. But I want to put these leaders a note in Dominica, especially Roosevelt Skerrit, that hey, your deeds that you do today, my brother, will for sure not just live with you, but it will live with your entire generation.
Let me ask you, who's the opposition leader in Dominica? Do you have one in parliament?
Non-existent. Non-existent.
None.
There's not one. And,
Wait.
There's no effort to make one exist. I'm telling you, the place
Mr.
is crazy.
Garfield, when I told you a while ago that things that are happening in Dominica doesn't happen nowhere else in the world, you think we're joking?
Wow.
Presently,
I mean, I am almost lost for words.
None.
So no opposition, and that's why it is very important that you guys stand in the gap and use the People's Parliament
Exactly.
to speak to the people.
Exactly. The people now must come up with some innovative way to help sustain ourselves in Dominica, because in Parliament we don't have a voice.
So when are you due for elections?
And that's one of the things with electoral reform. The date of elections is in the Prime Minister's back pocket, brother. He can call it whenever he wants and give them 30 days. We cannot continue down these paths, bro. We just cannot continue down these paths. And they talk about riots, When the conversation of riot comes up, it always comes under, is the onus on the citizens who are trying to get justice. It is the conditions of the government that is creating the conditions for riots, The government is the primary reason for riotous situations in these countries are the actions of the government. If this prime minister would allow the constitution to work, would allow the Electoral Reform Commission to do their work, there would be no concern for riots in Dominica tomorrow. No concern for riots. So when we talk about riots, we need to understand the dynamic. It's not the onus on the rioters. It is these conditions that are setting the relationships that are making riots necessary for justice to prevail.
So it sounds like you guys are fed up, and you guys want action. But I would encourage you guys not to burn anything or destroy anything, of course, but stand up, speak up, march if you must, protest if you must, my friends. That's the only tool that you have right now. You do not have parliament.
Peaceful
protest, and therefore the regional governments need to stay out of your internal business.
Exactly.
They need to stay out of it. So the RSS need to stay out and go deal with the criminals and the drugs and the CIP passport monies that are missing. That's where the regional security should place their attention, not on protesters who are standing up for something that is right, is needed, is necessary to keep their democracy together.
I want to big up the people of St. Lucia, since we know as most of the audience tonight, because no matter what, the people of St. Lucia, they have an active political spirit that I really admire. They have this sense they'll create change. You're not doing right, trust me, you're going home. And I hope that Dominica, that sisterly thing that we have with Lucia, I hope we can start learning that from the Lucians. We few today, but as long as you step aside, we're going to take you out tomorrow.
Well, maybe we need to start a movement together. I am available. Yeah. We can start a movement together to ensure that the democracy in the region stays together.
Yeah, man.
And
Great thought.
Yeah, indeed.
Thanks for having us, brother. We appreciate that tonight,
All right.
you know.
Any closing?
Well, finally, finally, Mr. Garfield, what I want to say is that I want to thank you personally for giving us the time tonight. Let me just address the police situation in Dominica and then the people. The police must not, I repeat, the police must not stand in the way of depriving the people of Dominica in terms of exercising our fundamental democratic rights. We see the police, some of them, over and over, whenever the people choose to stand in Dominica, they are always there to sort of be this stumbling block. We are calling for peaceful protests in our country as afforded to us by our constitution. Our ancestors bled, they died, they fought to have us exercising that level of liberty, as it were. And so we will not be subject to any form of slavery by our own, including our policemen and women. So that is just a note that I want to leave with them tonight, especially when we come out tomorrow to stand up in our country for what we know to be right. Finally, in a democracy, the people matter. And so I want to thank the Dominican people by and large. Those of you in Dominica, those of you out there, those of you who pray, those of you who continue to keep Dominica in your thoughts, I want to thank you. Those of you who have contributed in one way, shape, or form to Dominica over the years. And it seems as if sometimes, you know, your givings are going in vain. I want to just ask you to hold the fort. Hold the fort. It is said the night may be long, but joy comes in the morning, and real joy. And so I just want to have the people of Dominica in particular be a little more empowered from tonight's discussion as we try to usher in a new day into our country. So Dominicans, all is not lost. We have been through our very bitter days, our better days. A matter of fact, our best days are ahead of us. Thank you, Brother Garfield, for the time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lloyd, you want to say anything? Thank you so much.
My brother, I want to thank you. I want to thank, what's his name? FT, the other brother.
Yeah.
Earlier on, we had today, he called. You know, I just want to thank you because you see, St. Lucia is like our sister. You know what I mean? Our sister. So I think it's a good place for us to start, you know, this mission of uniting the people on common cause, you know, so that we can start being resistive to these politicians, because these politicians are the problem in the region. We have a crop of politicians who are the new colonizers, And we as a people of the region, bro, we have to start standing up to these guys and letting them know we're fed up with this boys club nonsense that is not working in the interest of the citizenry of the region. Straight up.
Yeah,
Thank you, brother.
Yes, and power to you, brothers. Thank you so much for being here with us on the platform, and let us keep in contact. Let's build a relationship together. Whatever we can do, we will help. We will do our best, and I look forward to us having maybe inviting concerned citizens to come to a private Zoom meeting, and let's just discuss some of the issues such as the cost of living, the CIB program, you know, the roads, the health care, and let's come together, bring the people together. That's how you start a movement, folks. Let us come together and help to keep the democracy alive. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank Brother E.T. as well, who, you know, had us earlier on his program. Thank him very much.
Oh, you were on with E.T.?
Yes, we were.
Okay, good. I think he called earlier too.
Yes.
He called. Okay.
He was the one,
good.
yes.
Okay, he was the one. I didn't.
But I must say to you, brothers,
there's a special brother in the background who made all that possible.
Yes.
I don't know if you want his name mentioned, but
I don't want to mention his name, no.
Anonymous for now.
Yes.
But I want to thank him in a very, very
That's right. Also, I also got word, and I want to let you know on the set right now, that we had some officials from the Washington area, one or two folks there from Congress who were on the show. I was informed earlier tonight. So your word is going around, and we hope to see something different in the region. Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, they're going into elections this year, and also Trinidad and Tobago, they're heading in the next, on the 28th of April. So we look forward to a shift, a reset in the region where we can have better leadership, more, not the dictatorship type thing we see popping up in the region. Thank you so much, brothers.
That's where the American component is important. It has its weaknesses, but the past, the kind of involvement has been a temporary, sort of thing towards these dangerous politicians. And I think it is important that America continues that process of engagement, because it plays its part. It plays its part. It's the absence of that has happened in the last set of times that has created this kind of madness that is overtaking the region. So we need some sense of American involvement to temper these politicians in their excesses and their corrupted practices.
Yeah, thank you so
God
much.
bless.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. I look forward to our next sit-in, folks. That was our brother there from our brothers from Dominica. We got to close the show. We want to thank our GVD managers for keeping us on air a little longer tonight. We promise we won't go that long. We'll try to have more programs so that we will not have to length it out. I have not touched on the whole State Department misinformation from the Trump administration. I just want to say this quickly before we go. For those of you who read the leaked documents memo that came out of the White House, from the State Department by the New York Times and Reuters, I am here to let you know that you should not at any point let your guard down and believe that there is nothing happening. That's a lie. It's not the truth. The Trump administration, they are looking at all those names that were mentioned, all those names that was mentioned in that leaked draft. It was a leaked draft. It did it was leaked from the State Department. It was. It is not a lie. There was a play of words. The United States government will never confirm any leaked documents. They would not do it, especially this Trump administration. Don't be fooled. Do not let your guard down. Let us prepare for what is to come. Let us hope for the best, that good sense prevail, and that we do not see major restrictions in our region. That's all we need to do. We know this is not a laughing matter. It is not a game. It's not a political game. This is real. And the list I am saying to you, it is as real as it is real. Let us stop playing games with it. If you as a country heard your names being mentioned on that list, continue dialogue, continue looking at your internal structures, your internal operation, and do your best to improve on it and to be more transparent, especially with your CIP programs. That's all I can say. So any government who take that press statement from the State Department to think that nothing is going on, please allow your surrogates to do all the nonsense and nastiness. Let them go out there and laugh and say, hey, this one have eggs on their face. I am asking you politicians, keep your eyes open. Look at your internal systems and ensure that they're compliant with international standards whatever relationship you got to fix or mend or break, do it now. Don't even breathe because of what the press statement, at the press conference, what the State Department said. You continue to look at your system of government and ensure that you are operating from the highest standard. And that's all I'm saying to you, and then I will come back to give you some of the information that I have here so that you will not be caught off guard. And I know many of you are brilliant. Boy, that was close. No, it is closer than you think. Period. So, folks, I want you to have a beautiful night. Enjoy the rest
we
of
stand
your
very
evening.
strongly in the One China principle. And so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees us as a friend. We see China as a friend. And as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And China has been indeed a friend. China is a friend all times, but certainly in difficult times. And we have always been able to rely on China's support. The Chinese don't give us a loan and say to us, you have to do A, B, and C. No. They give us a loan with no conditions, no strings attached. We stand very strongly in the One China principle. And so we will support and play our part in the peaceful reunification of the whole of China. China sees us as a friend. We see China as a friend. And as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And China has been indeed a friend. China is a friend all times, but certainly in difficult times. And we have always been able to rely on China's support. The Chinese don't give us a loan and say to us, you have